This
structure.
conference will now be recorded.
Excellent. Good question. Good catch. I did that on purpose also,
Okay.
um, because everyone will notice when they open it. Everyone will notice they don't have the background. Um, and the way I was sending it out, you might open it and you might have to wait for it to do a temporary update of the backgrounds. So this morning's class, we were just talking about, comes in with just the pipes, and I will show you right off how to go get those backgrounds back. But if you've opened and saved the links in your version of Revit, you should reload the links from that version. It's much faster than waiting for the different version to update, and the links only update temporary. So every time you open the project, you get stuck waiting for that. So I did do that on purpose. Welcome, everyone. It's showtime. We're going to get started. I am on a quest to get through all of the slides one of these days, and they just keep piling up from the previous class. But it'll all work out in the end, and I want to make sure I cover all that good stuff that's in those slides. So let's move on through the next couple of slides here. Um, Everybody's been great. I'm not going to say any more about mics. I assume everybody can hear me, so I'm not going to say any more about calling in. And this slide says lesson 2 because it's the cleanup stuff that I moved from lesson 2 into the beginning of today's lesson. And on the right side of the screen is the reminder that we're trying to get all the views we made and then some onto the sheets so we can plot that out and submit it. And we we got the major one done last Thursday. We did a floor plan and a ceiling plan and a floor plan and a ceiling plan and a floor plan and a ceiling plan of the 3 levels. And then each one of them had their own sheet. So we put the ceiling plan down first. That got us the ceiling tiles and the room names and room ceiling heights. And then we put the floor plan, which shows the riser nipple symbols in the correct orientation, on top of that ceiling plan. And the composite is what we want to display for the authority having jurisdiction and for our installers. Um, Today, we're going to add to those title blocks, we're going to add some other working views, sections, details, a site plan, and and then we're going to plot them out. So let's get going. So we've already created those composite views of the submittal plans, and I'm going to duplicate those with detailing, and that'll get us a, a copy that we can turn into fab views. And there's actually a button that'll do both of those at the same time. It'll duplicate it, and it will add the cut dimensions instead of the center to center dimensions. The ceiling plans, however, will have to duplicate with detailing. We're not allowed to put the same view on 2 different sheets. So we'll just make a copy of it. And I'll say again, don't worry that that's making your um, Revit project huge or anything. That copy is only a set of instructions for how you're going to slice, dice, and categorize that model for that view. So it adds very minimal size and I'm going to say no imaginable, no noticeable effect to performance or anything. So uh, do it and feel good about it. Um, well, before we can actually do this, we need to open today's project. So I'm going to go ahead and open Revit. And I'm opening Revit 2023. If you downloaded today's project, you would need to upgrade it. And as soon as you're done upgrading it, of saying do a save in your current version. And then our opening discussion said I purposely left out or turned off the links so that you wouldn't get stuck um, finding 2023 links and upgrading them to 24, 5, or 6. This way you can simply reload those from the appropriate version. So I'm going to open from my CHES, and my intent was for you to put that in intermediate training, and my intent was for you to put that, the start of day, in intermediate training. And so you might get stuck for an upgrade of that, but if you do a save, it'll be upgraded and not charged every other time you open it. You can open the upgraded version. The backgrounds, however, the links, if I had left them in place, you would get stuck waiting and waiting for them to upgrade. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Manage Links. And you see the links are still sort of noted. However, I unloaded them, so I'm going to have you reload from. I'm going to go to the architectural one first, and I'm going to say reload from, and I'm going to go to the Revit project files that we sent out a couple of last week, and I'm going to reload from 2023. But if you're working in 24, 25, or 26, it's a good idea to reload from there. That reload happens pretty darn quick compared to the upgrade. And then I'm going to take the other one and reload from, and I'm going to use the 23 one, but you can use the different version, and then you'll have the backgrounds. Good. And then I said we were going to make some fab views. So to do the fab views, just a reminder, I'm going to go to each of the plot plans, and just in the floor plan, in the plot section, I'm going to say run setup, and then HydraList setup and fab view. So over here, I'm on the ground floor, and that's not the plot one. I'm going to go to the ground floor plot one. That doesn't have any dimensions on it yet. So I'm going to do the walker. I typed WW to get the walker done. And then I'm going to go to HydroCAD tag pipes, and I'm going to put center to center dimensions on there. And I will ask it to clean up the dimensions that I put on there. That way those short pipes will get the dimensions moved into a readable position. And then I'll take those and sorry for the wait, but I purposely leave anything that requires a wait in the lesson so that you're not surprised when you go to do it. Al made it look like it was super fast, and now it's taken a long time. So how long it takes is, I think, part of the lesson. And when I'm actually waiting, I feel like I'm impatient about it, but it's fine. Now it feels like it's being longer than it's supposed to, and I still just have to gut it out here. Nothing for it really. Okay, so he's put all the dimensions on, and now I'm going to move regular tags. That's these guys. So this 1 by 0 foot 8, 1 by 0 foot 8, those were crowded, and this routine will recognize that and move it. And then if there's any areas with longer dimensions that need some attention, that's where these boxes will come from. So I see they're all down in the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to right-click and select all instances in view. That's all those warnings, and I'm going to delete those. Um, sure enough, that is kind of messy down there, and I think what I'm going to do is just eliminate those for now. So I'll take those, control that one, since they're not really the ground floor. Uh, okay, and I picked most of the ones. I think I've got them all, except for this one is being shy for some reason. I'll come back and get it. And I'm going to filter just the pipe tags and hit the delete key. And then that tag and that tag, there might have been two or more of them in the same place is why they were shy. And I'll delete those. Okay. So I'm going to take this view and make a cut sheet view out of it. And the way I do that is over in Hydralist, I'm going to pick on Fab View. So notice here it says ground floor. Then I'm picking Fab View. And now it says ground floor and ground floor fabrication. And the difference between the two is the center to center dimensions have been replaced with cut dimensions. What would you notice? 1 by 0'7" instead of the 1 by 0'8" that was there before. Let's go to the lower level and walker this. I'm claiming I have on a a system divider, which made this walker stop there. That's probably a good thing. And I'm going to tag those pipes. And I forgot to put cleanup on, but there's none there that are in bad shape, so I'll leave that. And now I'm going to take and make a fab view out of that. And there they are with the cut lengths. And then the second floor, I think we had dimensions on. That's a good thing, so I can just make a fab view out of that. And then I want to make, I want to put these on the sheets, but I need to have ceiling plans to put on them. So I'm going to take this ceiling plan and duplicate it with details. I'm going to take the lower level and duplicate it with details. And there's not a lot of details that are happening there, but the second floor, I'll point out, is the one that we had put the room names and the ceiling heights on. Those are details. So when I duplicate with details, I'll get those. And then it says for each plot ceiling view, right click and create a duplicate with details. And then we're going to take the ceiling plans and drag them on to our sheets. We're going to identify those as viewports without a title so we don't get double titles when we later take the floor plan and drag it onto the sheet over the top of the ceiling plan. So let's go get that done. I'm going to go to the sheet for the lower level. I didn't clean these tags up at all, and or these titles, and I'm not sure that this one needs it a lot, but I want to show you how to manage those titles. I am going to put this up a little bit higher in the corner, and that'll give me room to grab the ceiling plan for the lower level and drag it onto this view. And you'll notice the dotted blue line, meaning that I have them lined up with each other. And I'm going to take this one and change the type of title that it's in is one without a label. And then I'm going to take the floor plan for the lower level and drag it over here. And I'm looking for a dotted blue line in each direction. I saw it, and there it is. And now those are lined up. I'm good with that. So this one has got, um, this one's got, neither one of them has sprinklers. It looks like just pipes. I'm going to go visit each one of those. So I've got the lower level. I'm not seeing sprinklers. I'm going to pick a big old window around everything and click on the button that says pretty sprinklers. I think I mentioned that's the reverse of AutoCAD, where we always draw the sprinklers and then we make the lines become polylines and go into the edge. In Revit, it's the reverse of it. The lines go as far as the pipe itself is supposed to, and then we draw a pretty sprinkler to blot out the piping. So I did that to the lower level. I'm going to go do it to the lower level fabrication view, grab all of that, and do pretty sprinklers. Okay, then I want to get the ground floor onto the ground floor plan. So I'm going to go down to the ground floor ceiling plan. And this time I could take this and move it up to make more room. But besides that, I'm using the arrow key to move it a little bit. Besides that, this title is a little bigger than it needs to be. If I just click on the title all by itself, I can then just grab it and move it. I'm going to move it up in here. And if I want to make it shorter, this is the reverse of it. It's kind of silly. I have to click on the view, and then you see I get some moving handles, some grips on that title that I can use to move it. Now I've got room to put the ground floor fabrication view down here. So I'm going to go take the ground floor fabrication ceiling plan, and I'll put it on the paper, and there's my dotted blue line. And I'm going to change that to no title. And then I'm going to take the ground floor floor plan and drag it onto that sheet also. And I'm looking for my dotted blue lines to line it up. And then I'm going to take the title and I'm going to move it. You see a dotted blue line for it also. And then I'm going to click on the view, and that gives me grips that I can adjust it. And there's that dotted blue line. So I've got the titles lined up with the plan views. I think I've got that a little high, so I'm going to move it down. Perfect. Okay, let's do the same thing with the second floor. A little less narration this time, perhaps. Second floor, grab this guy, move it up, change the title, take the ceiling plan, pull it down below, line it up, make it have not a title, and then take the floor plan, drag it on top, look for the two blue lines to line up. And then I'm going to click on the title and move it up, and click on the view and adjust its length. And again, I got a little bit higher than I needed to be. I'll move it down a little bit. Okay, so we've got our fab views. Not that typical that you put a fabrication or an installation view on the same sheet as the submittal plans. But I just wanted to show you all of this, and that's a way of making 5 sheets, not 10 sheets. I also want to add some building sections. I want one through the whole building looking north, one through the building looking east. And that's as easy as we either already have one or I can make one. And I can apply the view template to make it a plot one that'll get a lot of the settings taken care of automatically. So if I go back to the sections that we already have, this section, I'm not going to say I recognize right off. Section 3, I do recognize that one right off. I'm going to call that building section looking north. So I'm going to just click on the title and then rename it just by retyping building section looking north. And section 4, I'm going to call that a section at riser manifold, but I'm going to go take that and crop it down, and I think I'm going to make it be quarter scale. Maybe doesn't have to be quite that wide, and I'm going to relabel that section at riser manifold. Manifold. All right. Now I need to go make one. Let me go to the ground floor, and I'm going to make a section through here so I can see that stairway. So I'm going to just click on the section line in the quick access toolbar. There's a little tiny button that looks like a section line, and I'm going to draw that section line through my building. And I'm going to use the two-way arrow to switch it so it's looking to the east. I'm going to make it not be so deep. And then I think I'm going to be happy with that section line. So I will go find it. It's up here. I just created a new, I believe, section 3. Yeah, I think that's him. I just didn't make it, didn't decide to be tall enough. So that's a building section looking west. You know what? I'm kind of changing my mind a little bit. If I go back to the ground floor where I created that, and if I pulled that into the stairway, it might just be a little bit more interesting. Now I'm flying all around, and look at all the tabs I've got going here. It's just getting out of hand. So I'm going to go ahead and close all the other tabs. I'm down to just the one tab, and I have it, and then I'm going to click on section 3, and there's that same building section, but it now goes through the stairwell, and it's got just a little bit more interest to it. Okay, so I'm going to rename that building section looking west. BLDG section looking west. And then the section 2, I'm just going to throw that away. If I need another section later, I'll just create it. Now I'm going to take all 3 of those sections. So I'm in the project browser. I'm clicking and control clicking to pick all 3 of them. And I'm going to change the view template to FP plot section. And that moved them out of coordination down here under sections. And I'm going to just take those sections and put them on sheet 5. So there's sheet 5. There's the riser manifold. I'm pulling that on to that sheet. There's the section looking west. I'm going to pull that onto that sheet also, and then I'm going to take the section looking north and pull that onto the sheet underneath those guys. And I could adjust where those titles are and how long they are. And maybe that one's okay the way it is. I have ugly boxes around all 3 of them. I think I'm going to click and click. So I've selected all 3 of those, and I'm going to turn those boxes off. So now I have the sections without the ugly boxes. All right, now I want to put a couple of 3D views on. The first one is a 3D view of the riser manifold. So I could do it in section, or I could get fancy and do a 3D view of the riser manifold. And then I'm going to do another one of the entire building that I can put on the cover sheet, just sort of to show off what what it is that we're working on. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and make room for that 3D view. And then I'm going to go back to maybe the ground floor. I'm going to go find the riser, and I'm going to pick a window around the riser stuff and pick on this button on the modify ribbon in the view panel called selection box, or BX. And I'm going to immediately change the view template to plot 3D, and that makes it a lot easier to see. The walls are still there, but they've kind of been grayed out or made transparent. That's just not bad the way that it is. I think maybe I will leave it at that. I will change the scale to quarter scale, and then I'm going to make a point of it created that view under 3D views, under squiggle, 3D squiggle. That's the name of it. And if I do later want to put text on it, I will get yelled at if I try to put text on it. How is it I'm going to get yelled at? Revit doesn't want to allow you to be moving this thing around, putting text on, which kind of goes on the, if you think of this as a picture of that 3D stuff, the text goes on the frame glass, and then if you rotate the picture, it doesn't line up with the rotated text anymore. So Revit will yell at you if you try and put text on it right now. I'm going to put on this underground to supply just as an example. So I'm going to go to annotate, and I'm going to pick text. And when I go to click, it let me do that. Why did it let me do that? Well, he let me do it. He shouldn't have. Look how silly that looks if I rotate it any further. So to prevent that, I thought he was going to yell at me. There are maybe some other things that will yell. What I'm going to do instead is use this button down here that says lock the view. So once I put text on, I don't want it moving around on me. So I'm going to lock the view, save the orientation, and lock the view. And while I'm at it, I'm going to call this 3D manifold ISO. I maybe don't need the 3D at the beginning. Manifold ISO. Okay. And then if I put text on here, 6-inch UG to supply, or from supply. All right, and text allows you to have arrows. I'm going to put an arrow on the right side of that text. Escape, escape, escape. Click on the text. Here's the thing to add the arrow, and then I can just move the arrowhead up to there. Okay. And if I hit shift and hit the wheel, it's not allowing me to rotate anymore, so I'm not going to mess it up after I put it on there. So I can take that view and put it on sheet 5. And there's my manifold ISO, and I'll go ahead and, oh, that got awfully big. I think I'm going to try cropping that view. Let me go back to it and see what cropping does. Crop, crop. Yeah, you see, it was trying to make room for this whole space on that sheet. That's all that I actually need to show. So I'm going to take and crop this down. And I'm saying all I need is room for that on that sheet. And I'm going to not show that box, and then I'm going to go back to sheet 5, and I'm going to drag this thing on there. Much better. I'll make this smaller, and then I'm going to move it over a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to make a site plan. A site plan is really just an overall picture of the whole building, shows the underground out to the street. I can usually get the street and the surrounding information out of Google Maps. So I supplied previously, I think in lesson 2, I supplied under AutoCAD backgrounds a PNG. I'm going to show you that here. So I'm going to my Windows File Explorer, and under HES, Intermediate Training, AutoCAD backgrounds, I have a image that I simply scooped from Google Maps. In Google Maps, you can say measure, and I just sort of randomly picked 2 points to measure between 2 random points. But that gave me a line that's marked with feet on it. So I could say, oh, Google Maps said from this random point to that random point is 400 feet. So I'm going to scale it so that that becomes 400 feet. So I'm going to right click on the ground floor plan and duplicate it. And then I'm going to change it, change the view template to site plan. One of the things that'll do is make the top be ground floor plus 4 feet and the bottom be ground floor minus 10 feet. That'll show me like the building footprint, not the whole sprinkler system, but it will show me the underground because I went to minus 10 feet. And then we'll crop that so that we can see the building and the footprint. Then we're gonna insert an image, and the image will be that thing I just showed you, the JPEG that I got from Google Maps. And then we're going to modify that image by scaling it to say between those 2 points is 400 feet. And then I'm going to use PI, which is the pipe command, to extend the underground out to the street. And then we'll use tag pipes to just put some dimensions on that. And we'll use a filled region to highlight our building. So I'm going to keep that all in mind, then go back here, go find the ground floor plan. And I'm going to duplicate that. I duplicated it without detailing. I'm really just interested in the outline of the building. And I'm going to take that new view and relabel it FP site plan. And then I'm going to take that view and change its view template to site. Now, one of the two major things it's doing is the view range, I said, was from 4 feet down to minus 10 feet. And the other important thing that it's doing is making the scale equals 1 inch equals 200 feet. Okay, so now I've got that floor plan. I wonder why I don't see the rest of the building. That's not terrible, but there's that other section of the building over here. Site plan, view range, associated level plus 4 feet. The associated level is the ground floor. And I'm going down to minus 10 feet. I bet you it's cropped. So sure enough, it's cropped. I'm going to uncrop it. There's the rest of my building. I'll recrop it after I know what I want it to look like. So what it looks like is a building on that background. So I'm going to next insert a image, import an image, and I'm going to go to CHES, intermediate drawings, backgrounds, and that's where I put that image. And I'm just going to stick that in my plan. Then up here, I've already got it selected, but between there and there is supposed to be 400 feet. So since it's selected, the modify ribbon is active and I'm picking on scale. And I'm using under the, I don't know, this green bar is the options. I can either make it 1/10 the size or 1/100th the size or something, but I'm going to do it graphically just by clicking at the 0, clicking at the 400. Currently it's 1,168 feet. I'm going to type 400 and I'm changing 1168 to 400, and that's now to scale. I can take that thing and move it down pretty close to the Press Cafe is this family practice. They've got the building going the other way, but I'm going to go and sort of park my small medical facility where it says family practice.
Could you please just show me which button was scale real quick?
Yes. So click on an object that you want to scale. In this case, it's the background. And in the modify ribbon, the modify panel, it's that button there that says scale. Find it?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, now I'm going to go crop the view again, and I'm going to put the crop box on. The crop box was like just the size of the building, actually the ground floor, makes sense, and I'm going to make it much bigger. And I can make it almost any size that I want, but I'm going for enough to see the street to the left of me, enough to see the street to the right of me, and the street below me. And then I'm going to zoom in on this guy and click on that pipe. I said use PI, but there's already a pipe there. And the pipe, oh, I just messed up a little bit. I did save. I like doing save, but I'm going to come back and do file save as a project. And I'm going to change this to end of day. Alrighty. And then I'm going to get rid of this cap. It looks, now I just moved my family practice, or I was at risk of moving it. Yeah, I did move it. I'm going to take the background, pick on it, and I'm going to pin it. And then I've got my red X's. Now I won't be picking the background by accident. All right. I don't think I will. I thought I had it pinned. There, it's pinned. So now I can't pick the background by accident, just my stuff. And then I'm going to pick a window around that cap and erase it. And I'm going to click on that pipe and drag it down to Spitbrook Road. And then I'm going to right click and create similar. And I'm going to start on a dotted blue line off to the left. And I'm going to drag it way off to the right. And since I started right there, I think it put a T in there.
Take the buildings out of position.
You are correct. I'm going to undo that. And then in my efforts to try and get that thing pinned, I moved it and then pinned it, I think. So thanks for pointing that out. So I'm going to unpin it either here or on the menu. Now it's unpinned, and now I can move it Thanks. And then I'm going to pin it again. All right, and I'm going to turn these guys off. All right, then I'll make this shorter enough so that it only goes to Spitbrook Road. And then I'm going to right click and create similar. And I expect I got a T there, but I didn't. So I'm going to take this and drag it off and drag it back on, and that'll connect it in with a T. Good. And then I'm going to take those 3 pipes, click, control click, and I'm going to tag pipe, and I'm going to tag it with center to center dimensions. And I'm going to change this to 136 foot sign just to save a little space. And I'm going to take these 2 and leave them 6-inch. I'm clicking on both of them, but I'm going to use a dimension that's the diameter only, not the diameter and the length. Okay, let's double check what we've got going on over here. I think I'm good. So we made a site plan. We used the site plan view template. We imported the image. We uncropped it. We scaled the image. We put the pipe in. I just need a filled region to highlight the building. And we've already tagged the pipe, so I'll just need to drag it onto the sheet after I do that. So to highlight the building, I'm going to go to annotate. And there's a thing for a region. There's 2 regions. I want the filled region, not the masking region. So I'm going to use the filled region. And it's asking me to draw a line, and I think that'll work for me because this is kind of an odd shape. It's not just a rectangle. So I'm going to trace around the outside of the building. And I obviously don't have to be super extra fussy. And then I'm going to use the green check mark. And that's a hatch pattern like we're going to use for the hydraulic calculations, awfully open pattern. So over here I can change the kind of hatch pattern to a building on a section plan that's got a much busier hatch pattern, and I can see it at a really small scale. So really good. I think I'm going to turn off that crop region, and then I'm going to go to sheet 1. And I'm going to drag that plot plan onto sheet 1. And I'm reminded I was planning to make 2 3D views, one that showed the whole building, and one that showed the riser manifold. I'm going to go make that view while I'm thinking of it. So under view, there's a thing for default 3D view, and that's pretty good just the way that it is. I'm going to maybe tilt it a little bit. That should give everybody an idea what that looks like. I'm not fond of seeing those levels in there, so I'm going to go to visibility graphics, and it's under annotations is where I expect to find the levels. There they are. I'm going to turn them off, and then I'm going to crop that view. I'll pull that down here. I'll pull this over here. I'll pull this up here. And I don't want this to take up my whole title sheet, but it's kind of nice to have a little overview of what the building looks like. So I'm going to change the scale, not to 1/8 scale, so it takes the whole sheet. I'll make it something like 1 inch equals 40. How about 1 inch equals 30? And then I'm going to try pulling that. Also, so I don't lose it or forget about it, I'm going to lock that view, and I'm going to say building ISO. That way it's got its own name, and it won't wander off on us. There it is. And I'll put that on the cover sheet also. Sheet 1, building ISO. Nice. So we've got our site plan done, and we've got some other kinds of views. We've got a sprinkler schedule, we got some pipe hanger details, and we've got some general notes, and then we'll plot this bad boy. So the sprinkler schedule is kind of already done. We just have to tweak it out a little bit. We're going to use the project browser and find the sprinkler schedule. We need to add images to it. To say the upright looks like just an open circle and the pendants look like a circle with a filled in thing in it. And then it turns out the schedule's got a little bit too much information on it. The description has the temperature and the sin and the K factor in it. If I take those out of there, I've already got separate columns for that information. You can
Quick question, sir.
go ahead.
So when you bring in different scales for different for the different pictures on
Yeah.
one page,
Yeah.
Does the title remain the same font and font size and font?
Yes, it does, and that's
Go ahead.
1/8-inch text is always 1/8-inch text. No matter, and maybe I can sort of drive that home for you. Here we are on this view. We're in the ground floor view, and the text is about 330 seconds. We made it a little bit smaller than 1/8 inch just to get as much on there as we could. On the sheet, I'm on the ground floor view. Let me go to the sheet. Oh, and this one might, no, the details one will be good. You see the word second floor here? This is quarter scale, and this is second floor. Over here, this is 1/8 scale, and there's the word second floor. I think you can see they're the same size.
Okay, thank you.
So that was in AutoCAD. You had to pay attention to what scale am I plotting at? Should I use annotative text? Or if I don't, I got to pay attention to, is it a foot high or 2 feet high or 8 inches high? It really takes care of itself in Revit. So I'm saying a quarter inch text is really big. An 1/8 inch text is medium. 330 seconds I count as medium also, and then like 5/64 is the smallest you would dare make it, or you wouldn't be able to read it. So I'm going back to making the sprinkler schedule. So I'm going to go look in the project browser under schedules. I'm going to find sprinkler schedule. And you see it is kind of filled out already. I've got 64 pendant recess sprinklers, and I've got 23 reliable upright sprinklers, and I got 3 sprinklers I don't know what they are. I'm going to click on that line that has the 3 sprinklers, and I'm going to pick highlight in model, and I'm going to pick close. This is that building. It happened to find an open view that had those 3 sprinklers highlighted, and it zoomed in on them. 1, 2, 3. And I'm saying that's on the second floor in that upper left-hand corner. Oh, I see. Those are uprights. I put them in on demo day, and I didn't dial them in at all. I just said, oh, there's a standard upright. I'm going to take those 3 sprinklers, and I'm going to change them to reliable upright sprinklers. And they kind of don't look a whole lot different. I'm reminded that we had that candlestick on to measure how far they were from the deck above. That's a property that says show the deflector distance below unobstructed. I'll turn that off. And then if I go back to the schedule, I now have 26 uprights instead of those 3 wandering ones. Column A is the place where we're going to put in, I picked the little dot, dot, dot there, and column A is the recessed pendants. I'm going to use that picture. And I'm going to change all the sprinklers to be used in that picture. It doesn't show up in this form of the schedule, but it shows up when you put it on the sheet. And then this one, I'm going to change to the open circle, and yes, change all of those. And then you see I've got K factor, orifice size, temperature, and sin. And this description has got the temperature, and it's got the K factor, and it's got the sin. I'm going to take the K factor and the sin out of here, and I'm going to take the temperature out of here. And I'm going to take the orifice. No, the orifice size I'm going to leave in there. I'm just not going to show it. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the uprights. I'm going to take the K factor and the sin out. And I'm going to take the temperature out. Okay, that lets me make this column much narrower. The sin, I'm just going to take the word Hydrotech off of, and I'm going to narrow that column down a little bit. The K factor I can narrow down a little bit. The orifice size I don't have to show, and I don't have a great explanation for you why those sprinklers say 154.13, so I'm just going to type 155. All right, over here in fields, these are the fields: the image, the count, the description, and here are the fields: the image, the count, the description. I'm going to take the orifice size and throw it back in the list. And now I'm not showing the orifice size because it's built into the description. And I took the sin and the K factor and the temperature out of the description and left them in their own column. So I could then take that and put it on sheet 1. I'm going to take that sprinkler schedule and drag it onto sheet 1. But on the cover sheet, I'd really like that summarized by upper level, lower level, or second floor, ground floor, lower level. So if I go back to those 3 views, here's a ground floor, not a ceiling plan, ground floor floor plan. I'm going to take all of the sprinklers on this plan. I'm going to filter so that I've got just the sprinklers. I could do that over here since I'm only changing the properties, not copying or moving them. And then at the very bottom of the fire protection is zone. I'm going to type the zone in as ground floor. Okay, I'm going to go to the lower level.
Jason Fogg, I have Victor from Days in and Augusta on
And
Jason Fogg line.
here I'm going to do the walker because I remember there being a system divider there, so my walker stops there, and I've got everything on the lower level selected. I'm going to go dial in just the sprinklers, the 23 uprights, and I'm going to make their zone be lower level. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the second floor. All right, and I'm going to take a selection of all of those sprinklers and dial in just sprinklers. That's uprights and pendants, but I can change the zone of those to second floor. And then if we go back and look at our schedule, which I put on the sheet, didn't I? So I'm going to switch to, I'm back to way too many views open. I'm going to close all the other views, and then I'm going to open up the cover sheet. And that automatically got summarized. Built in there was to sort these by zone and put a subtotal after each one. So I've got 35 pendants on the ground floor. I've got 23 uprights on the lower level, and I've got 32 sprinklers total on the second floor. I can now take a copy of that and put a second floor schedule on the second floor and a ground floor schedule on the ground floor. Revit has a feature for the schedules that says you don't have to make copies of the schedule. You can put the same schedule on multiple sheets and just say, filter the schedule by how many of those things are on that sheet. That's pretty cool, but not quite. In this case, we have a sheet that has um, a fabrication view and a submittal view and a section view. It's adding all of those up and saying all those sprinklers are on that sheet. So you got to be careful if you use that feature in the schedule that says filter by sheet, that you don't put duplicates of the sprinklers on that sheet. This zone method avoids that. So I'm going to go back and find the schedule again. Schedule, sprinkler schedule. I'm going to copy that, duplicate that schedule, and I'm going to take the duplicate and call it second floor. And I'm going to duplicate it again. Well, just before I duplicate it again, this schedule. Somebody got their microphone unmuted. Let me have you check.
Mute your thing, James.
And then I'm going to go over here to filters. And I'm going to say, let's filter by zone. And I want only the ones whose zone equals second floor. And now this schedule is just the sprinklers on the second floor. I'm going to duplicate it again. And I'm going to change its name to ground floor. And I'm going to duplicate it again and rename and change its name to lower level. And the lower level schedule, I'm going to change the filter to equals lower level. And the ground floor schedule, I'm going to change the filter to ground floor. And then we can go to those three sheets. Here's the ground floor sheet. And I can take the ground floor sprinkler schedule. I'm going to go to, and let's just check that. It says ground floor, and that's just the sprinklers on the ground floor. If you want this to be one column, you just make that a little bit wider. While I'm here, the height of these columns is determined by the highest thing in the row, and that's either the text or the symbol. So you can make that symbol bigger or smaller. I point that out because it's the reverse of it. I'd expect to make the column higher to make that bigger, but instead you make the column narrower to make it bigger or smaller. So your choice there. Then let's go to the lower level. Nope, here's second floor sheet. And I'm going to take the second floor schedule and pull that onto that sheet. And I'm going to go to the lower level sheet, and I'm going to grab the lower level schedule and drag that onto that sheet. Okay, now if we add sprinklers, they'll just automatically add into this so long as we identify them in the zone. If we add sprinklers and forget to do the zone, then on the cover sheet, we'll have some extra sprinklers that are not yet identified, and that'll be a reminder to go add them to the appropriate zone. I do believe we've got sprinkler schedules covered. Next, I want to talk about 2D details. 2D details and can be created by creating a view called a drafting view. And the drafting view is just lines and circles and arcs, just like AutoCAD stuff. And you can put text or whatever else in that drafting view that you want. And then you can drag that drafting view onto your sheet. I've done that. I did it with a whole bunch of them, and I put that lines and circles and stuff on a sheet, and I grouped it so that you could just grab that detail off of a sheet in my project and drag it or copy and paste it onto your project. You can find that just by typing 2D details in the help videos. If you go to the help videos and you type 2D details, there's an RVT there. I will go show you that now. And then if you open that RVT, it's one of the few times you can probably just double click and it'll open in the version of Revit you have open. You can then see the hanger details on DH01, the sheet in that project, and piping details on DP01. You can say, I like that detail, click on it, Control C, go back to your thing and Control V and paste it there. So let me go do that. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to get to, let's see, the cover sheet. And now I'm going to put some 2D details on this sheet, and I'm going to start by closing all the others. So I've got my project open and just this sheet that I want to put details on. Then I'm going to go to the help pull down and click on help videos. And in the search, I'm going to search for 2D details. And there's I think this is a PDF, how to mess with that stuff, and this is an actual Revit file with that stuff in it. I'm going to click on View next to the RVT, and then I'm going to download that. If you've downloaded this, you don't have to download it every time. And if you've downloaded it and opened it and it did an upgrade, then you want to save it in the upgraded version and you can just use it without doing the download and the upgrade. But I have downloaded it now. I'm going to look in my downloads. There's downloads, and there's the thing that I just downloaded. I'm going to double click on it. It was done in Revit 2020 so that it's useful to everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and open it and let it upgrade. When I'm done opening it, I did this last night, but you guys are stuck for the upgrade anyway, so I'm sort of following what you have to do. I could do a file save as and put version 23 on it, and I could just open that directly next time I need details. Now, this project that it's opening has 2 sheets. Each sheet has lots of details on it. And that has one other view that has instructions for how you could add more of your own details to those sheets or make up some more sheets and add details to those. Many of those details might want to come from AutoCAD drawings that you have done already. I think I'm just about there. And I'll point out right now I have one tab open, and that's in my project. And when this is done, I'll have two tabs. So there's my project, there's this other project that we opened, and here's the instructions that I'm referring to on how you can tweak the details we've got or make your own out of AutoCAD. And this other project has currently hangers detail sheet and a piping detail sheet. I'm going to take the hangers detail sheet and I'm clicking on a top beam clamp. I'm control clicking on a trapeze bar, and I'm control clicking on a seismic brace, and I'm going to do control C to copy. Then I'm going to go back to my sheet and I'm going to do control V to paste. It just says there's some stuff in both projects. I'm using the one that you already have. So I say okay to that, and I'm going to park this kind of anywhere. Escape, escape, escape. I'm going to take this one and move it down into the corner. I'm going to take this one and move it close to that one. And I'm going to take this one and move it close to those two. And then I'm going to go line those up. So if I click on any one, the modify ribbon comes up. And on the modify ribbon in the modify panel is a button that says align. And it's important whether you say align multiple or not. If I say multiple, I could say align to this, that, and that. Now I'm going to uncheck multiple so I can say align to this, that, and align to this, that, and align to this, that. So I got them all very nicely lined up. I could also add, back on this sheet, I've got a set of piping details. I'm going to take the north arrow and control C that, switch back to my cover sheet, and I'm going to control V and put that north arrow on my site plan. I wonder, yeah. I a little bit wish that I could scale that down, but I don't see how to do that right off. I'm not going to bother. What else? Okay, I'm going to go close that other view. So I'm going to close the piping details. I'm going to close the hanger details. Cancel that. And before I close this, I would do File, Save As, a project, and I'd add 2023 to the end of the name so that if I need or want it again later, I could just open the 2023 version. And then I'll close it. And then the last thing we're going to do is put some general notes on sheet 1. And I could just do that. I'm on sheet 1, and I'm just going to type annotate text, and 3/16 is nominal size. Eighth and 3/32 are nominal normal size. Quarter and 3/16 are big size. So I'm going to use 3/16 text and just type general notes. And then I'm going to start text again, and I'm going to use 3/32, and I'm going to start typing. Notes go here. Or if you easily tire of typing notes, then instead of typing, you can go find some notes that you've typed elsewhere. I planted some in HES, Hydrotech, Revit Training Intermediate, under the AutoCAD backgrounds. I typed some general notes in Notepad, and I'm just going to copy all of the general notes, not the word general notes, but all of that text. I'm going to copy Control-C to the clipboard, and then over here, I'm just going to click and Control-V to get those notes in there. And way not necessary, but just as an example or a thought, I'm going to type DL for detail line, and I'll draw a line across the top of that, escape, and I'll draw a line down the side of that. And it just gives it a little bit of flavor. Okay, so we've got our 2D details, we've got our general notes. It's time to get this on a piece of paper. I'm going to say there's kind of two sections. We're going to select the paper size, then we're going to select what it is we're going to plot, in this case sheet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then there are other plot settings like the scale and the line types and that sort of stuff. In AutoCAD, you're used to messing with the line types at the time you go to plot. In Revit, I'm going to say we were paying attention to that as we went along. Each view had a view template associated with it, and that view template has got line types and colors built into the visibility graphics. I should at least remind you or point that out. So here's my floor plan, my ground floor plan. Here's the view template that we applied, and that view template has built into it override model objects. And among the 80 categories are the pipes, and the pipes include an override. So if you double click on this, you can say, I want to make the pipes really fat, or I want to make them really skinny. I can make them blue or black or green. And I could make them dashed if I wanted to. I guess while I'm here, I'll also point out there are filters, and I created a filter to define not just pipes, but line pipes, so that you could override the line pipes to have a color and a line weight different from the main pipes to have a color and a line weight. So that's already been built in, and when we go to plot, it's simply applying that stuff. So the plot is to actually just go File, Print, and then we're going to go set these three things and then actually plot it. So File, Print, and the first thing is the paper size. So you need to pick a printer. Those of you that have Bluebeam, then the Bluebeam printer will be in this list, and that's a really good one to use. And if you have a physical printer, that's going to show up in this list, and you can pick that. That's a good one to use. I want to warn you against this one. There's a Microsoft Print to PDF. Sounds really standard and really great, and like many things that Microsoft does, it's half-assed. That does a pretty good job of creating a PDF, so long as it's 8.5 by 11. If it's any other size, you're pretty much SOL. So pick anyone in here, probably not that one. I've got Qt PDF, which is a free PDF writer. If you Google Qt PDF, you can download and install that. I will warrant it's safe. It's honestly free. If they try and trick you into subscribing to something, keep looking. It's real. There's really a free one, and you want to use. You don't want to need to spend money on that and get tricked into it. I'm picking on Qt PDF, but then under Properties, I'm going to go to Advanced and Set, not paper size, but Arch D is 24 by 36, or I can go to Custom Print, and I'm going to make it 24 by 36. That's it. That's all I really had to settle on there. And then in here, I want to make sure that the 24 by 36 is landscape. I'm picking OK. So that's where I'm printing to. Down in the lower right-hand corner, lower left-hand corner here is what you're printing. And I want to print selected sheets. I'm going to hit select ... This is every view and every sheet in your project. I'm just going to check mark sheet FP 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I've got lots of views that I could print. I'm just going to print FP 1 through 5. There's a place where you could save the current set, and then you could come back and print your submittal set, or print your installation set, or you print your as-built set. But it's easy enough to just say, in this case, I want to do FP 1 through 5. And then I'm going to say select. And then I'm going to come over to setup. And this is the rest of the settings. I'm going to use custom size, which I previously set to 24 by 36. The name of the printer is Qt PDF. And then center or offset, I'm not terribly concerned about, but I am very concerned about zoom to 100%. If I want it to scale, I don't want it to fit it on the page and fake me out and make it look like it's to scale. So zoom 100%. And then down here, if the word hide shows up in one of these check marks, then check it. For instance, I could have 20 section lines on my plan, but if the section line hasn't been used on a sheet, I don't want to see it on that sheet. So only show the ones that have been referenced, hide the unreferenced ones. That's actually enough. I'm going to pick OK. And I'm going to cancel. There was a place up here, size, source. Maybe I haven't seen it yet. There's a place to say, I want all of this in one PDF. I don't want multiple PDFs. I think that's coming up. So I'm going to say, OK. Here it is. Combine multiple sheets onto one PDF. Then I'm picking OK here, and it's kind of in the background doing that printing. And then I'll get asked, where do I want to save that PDF? And I'll put it in the same place as my project, and then we can take a look at it. Okay, so I'm going to call it end of day, and I'm going to put it in that intermediate training file. So I'm going to pick save, and then I'm going to go find it. It just got created. There it is. I'm going to open it and take a look. So there's FP1, FP2, FP3, 4, 5. And that gets us through the rest of the plotting stuff. So we're up to the end of day 2, and we're ready to start day 3, which is hydraulic calculations. And I've included some modeling in here and some advanced description of calculations. Questions on the documentation stuff before we move on? Alrighty then, let's get calculating. So the good news on the hydraulic calculations is there's lots of buttons. Stuff's got to be modeled good, and you got to have heads and all. And then the modeling, the calculation ribbon has got 15 buttons on it or something. A lot to learn, but I want to boil it all down and say not so bad. just keep in mind there are three things that you need to do a calculation. Those of you that were in the basic class heard me sing this song, and I will sing it on and on. You need operating heads, connected model, water supply point. Operating heads, connected model, water supply gets you a calc. So if you keep in mind, those are the three things you need. There's sprinklers and there's properties to set them as operating. There's pipe and fittings that get you to a supply point, and that's all a calculation is. We want to make sure we get enough water out of the sprinkler system based on what's available to come in from the supply, and it's got to find its way there. So you need a connected model. So we're going to run calculations on multiple parts of this building. But as a warm-up exercise, we've already modeled the second floor, and the operating heads are going to be those green dots. I'm going to, first time through here, I'm simply going to pick a window that includes 4 heads on the furthest line, 3 heads on the next line, and 5 heads on the next line. And I'll say, I want to run a calc on those heads. There's 12 of them, and there's properties we set to make them operating. The blue dot in this picture is where I'm going to set the water supply. So it's not a totally legitimate calculation, but representative perhaps of a multi-story building where you're going to calculate back to the standpipe. And then the connected model is all of the pipes and fittings between that blue dot and the green operating head dots. So to ensure that everything has got the properties necessary to support that operation, the supply point knows how to record that it's a supply point. The operating heads have properties to record that they're operating. We're going to use the setup tool. So the HydroCalc ribbon, its first button is setup. Each of the 3 ribbons has setup as the first button. And once you're a little ways in the project, good idea to make sure you've run the setup button for each of those 3 ribbons before you do all the rest of your modeling, before you do your calcs, or before you do your listing. They have the same name, but they do slightly different stuff. You only have, so that makes sure in the case of the calculations that all the heads have the properties necessary for the heads to calculate. Doesn't matter whether you used Hydrotech heads or somebody else's heads, it guarantees you got those properties. Good idea to run it. You should run it after you have sprinklers in your project. And you don't need to run it every time you run calcs, just once after you've modeled your sprinkler system. Then that project has those things forever. Even if you add another manufacturer's sprinkler, when it joins the party, it says, oh, part of the credentials that all you guys have is this. I'll go inherit those properties also. So once, not every time. So let me run that. Coming over here, I'm going to the HydroCalc ribbon, and I'm picking the setup button. This is one of the least exciting buttons in the whole ribbon. You get an hourglass, you get a little bit of entertainment down at the bottom of the screen, and then the hourglass goes away and the button's done. Like I said, not all that entertaining, but it is part of making sure that those sprinklers have those properties. I'm going to go on and talk about the operating sprinklers. I'm going to pick a window that includes those 12 sprinklers we talked about, 4, 3, and 5. And I can pick a big old window, and then in the properties filter, I can say, of all the stuff I picked, I'm only interested in the 12 sprinklers. So to do that, I'm going to go get to the second floor. And I'm going to pick 4 and 3 and 5. And damn, I did good. So I started just to the left of the fourth sprinkler on that line. And I got those 4 sprinklers. I was just to the right of the 4th sprinkler on the second line, so I only got 3, and then there were 5 on that last line. And I got 152 things when I picked that window. If I wasn't so lucky, if I had picked a bigger window and I didn't want that 4th one, just a reminder, you could hold shift down and pick a window around that 4th one. So you got 4, 3, and 5. And then under common, I'm going to go to the 12 sprinklers. And the 12 sprinklers have got fire protection properties. And these fire protection properties are what that setup made sure existed. And the ones we have to settle on or fix are these 5: the density, the minimum pressure, the coverage area, whether or not they're flowing, and which remote area they belong to. So over here, I'm going to fill in the density is 0.1, the minimum pressure is 7. Even though the area currently varies, I'm going to say, let's calculate them all at 196, 14 by 14, just kind of to be safe or to overkill. And I'm going to double check that there's a nice dark blue check mark under flowing. And for remote area, I'm going to type in RA1. Good. So those are the 5 properties I have to make sure I fill in. Back here.
I'm not seeing a remote area. Would that be the same as zone in this one?
No, it's not. And it's
Okay.
very, very important that you
Oh,
get.
okay. My list is just in a different order than yours. Sorry.
Okay. And that's curious. And I've seen that, and I've never sorted it out. I can't say that order comes from here or there, or I don't know, but
Okay.
it's there. And
Sorry to
it
interrupt. Thanks.
the remote area. Good.
I don't know if it's the same thing, but my on my ribbon, my HydroCalc ribbon, I have a button that says new version available.
I'm going to say no. That the order of the properties is based on the properties of that object, and the program doesn't set that. It adds properties, but I don't think it adds the order. I think the sprinkler itself, the sprinkler object does it. But it's worth noting. Because we do add those properties conceivably in a newer version. We're adding them in a different order. But those are the 5. You got to make sure you fill in those 5. So we did that. I picked a window to get those 12 sprinklers. You can pick a filled region and then use the filled region to identify those properties. I'll show you that later. We're not going to do that now. And then the connected model is all the pipes between those 12 operating sprinklers and the water supply. And the walker is the best way to show that. So I'm just going to exercise the walker. I'm also going to point out that the walker can take advantage of a property. I used the property system divider to get just the lower level before. I just want to illustrate it here to emphasize it. So escape, escape, escape. WW starts the walker, pick a pipe, any pipe, and all the pipes that are connected to each other will get selected. If I wanted to calculate only to this pipe, I could set a system divider. So I picked on the pipe, a pipe or a fitting or a valve. Any of them have this property called system divider. And now the walker will go up to and including that pipe. So I'm doing WW for the walker. I'm picking on that pipe. It got all those pipes, but not the ones beyond it. You can also do a walker twice. I have the top pipes picked. I'm picking walker a second time. I didn't hit escape or anything. When I pick on a pipe below that system divider, then it adds. I've got the walkered set and an additional walkered set added together. I'm going to go take that system divider off. I put it there just to illustrate the value of that. A typical place where you want to use that system divider, there's plenty, but an example is a 10-story building. You can put a system divider on the control valve on each of the 10 stories. When we go to calculate the 9th floor, I want all the piping on the 9th floor and the supply pipe. If I have system dividers on all those control valves, I do the walker once on the 9th floor and once on the standpipe. I have all the pipe that supplies the 9th floor, and I'm not bothering the process with the other 9 floors worth of piping because I didn't select that stuff. If I was calculating the 5th floor, I do the walker once on a 5th floor pipe, once on the standpipe, and I've got all the pipes that I need to calculate the 5th floor. So that's my admonition about system dividers and how we can use it to select our connected model. Last thing we need to do a calc is operating heads, connected model, and a water supply. There's a button for the water supply, and I'm going to pick that button. And in this case, my blue dot was at the top of the riser, so I'm going to go pick on the pipe on the top of the elbow on the top of the riser. The supply point can be at any fitting. An elbow is a fitting, a T is a fitting, a coupling is a fitting. You can put it on any one of those. A butterfly valve is not a fitting. Revit calls that a pipe accessory, and the supply point cannot be placed on the pipe accessory. But any fitting. There will only ever be one supply point in your model at a time. When you put the supply point on, the program hunts down and destroys any supply point that's in the project and puts the new one on that new fitting that you clicked on. That'll be very handy for divide and conquer, and I'm going to talk about that later. But I already talked about system dividers, and the supply point behaves like a system divider. So I want to illustrate those things with the supply point now. I'm going to start by putting the supply point, HydroCalc supply point. I'm going to put it on the T in the hallway there. And then I'm going to run the walker and illustrate that that supply point serves as a system divider. I can only ever have one at a time. I didn't really want it on the T. I want it on this elbow over here. So if I go back to HydroCalc and supply point and pick on the elbow, you see it disappeared over here and it got created over there. It parks itself on the fitting that you picked, but you can move it and it's still connected. If I do the walker now, you see that it's stopping at the elbow at the top of the riser. And that is what we were trying to calculate. The water supply is not quite done. That says where the supply point is. We need to tell it how much the supply is. In this case, I'm going to say it's 55 static, 44 residual at 1100 flowing. It's light hazard. I'm going to make the hose 100, not 250. But over here, I'm going to pan out a little bit or zoom out, pan over a little bit, and I'm going to go to the HydroCalc define supply. There's that box that has the static, residual, and flow in it. I can either click on the box and adjust those values in the properties, or I can click on it right in the box and adjust the properties there. 55, 44, 1100, and I'm going to make the hose be 100. Okay, and I believe we have all that we need. We've got operating heads, connected model, water supply point. This shows blue all the way out to the street. We're going to stop at the top of the riser there. But I'm going to go ahead and do the walker. That'll stop at that elbow. And then I'm going to pick on the HydroCalc ribbon and the HydroCalc button to start the calculations. That's going to give us a dialog box that looks like this. I'll talk about it more in a second, but let's go get it open. So WW for the walker, picking on a pipe on the second floor. It gave me the connected model up to the second floor. Then on the HydroCalc, I'm picking the hydraulic calculations button. And that brings up this dialog box. The most important stuff is at the bottom here. James, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Did you get the walker done and open this dialog box?
Yep.
I think you've got a whole lot of blanks in here. Do I speak
I
the
do.
truth?
Yes.
Okay. So the next slide is what if there's a bunch of blanks? And I'm going to take you through filling that out. I'll come back to this slide in a second, but I'll describe it to you and you can tell me if it's working for you or not. We won't go on until everybody has got that stuff filled in and the continue button is lit up. So don't worry. Let me talk about the top stuff first though. It guesses a name for this calculation file and it simply guesses it equal to what we've got for our project, and then it adds RA1 to it. This drop down is a list of all of the sprinkler areas that we've labeled, and since we only labeled one, it's a list of one. When you want to do a full calculation, you want these two boxes unchecked, but I'm going to show you a little later in our discussion how you can use this to check out a whole building at once before you zero in on the nitty gritties of the calcs. When you're ready for the nitty gritties, which we're going to do this time, leave these unchecked. Besides the name, this is the actual location, which is the same as the project RVT file. Elevation can just always be 0. This is an adjustment, but in Denver, the architect might say the ground floor is at 5,260, and then the second floor is at 5,282. Those elevations will show up in the calculations, and some people reading the calcs, the authorities having jurisdiction, say, this building's not 5,000 feet tall. It's only the differences that matter, and you could put in minus 5,260 here to get them all to reference the ground floor as 0. You won't change the answer at all, but you'll change the information that we're reflecting in the calcs. And then we didn't put any hydraulic reference points on, and I think we very well may want to, but the first time around, I'm saying just use whatever numbers the computer comes up with. Since I'm working on the second floor, I'll say start the numbering at 201, but I'll give you better numbering later. Okay, that gets you the whole top stuff. Now, James, I think you're down in the hole most everybody else is. This stuff is all blank. To fill it in, click on this button that says switch to classic. And in classic, there's a pull down in the middle here for each of the pipes, each of the kinds of pipes that we modeled with. There's 4 different kinds of pipes. If you click on the first one, which is arms to welded lines, and you pick load defaults, and you pick apply, that'll get numbers filled in for that one. Do I speak the truth, James?
Yep. Well, should I go back to pipe type mapping to check it there? Or?
Not yet. We'll check it after. We have to do this for all 4 of them.
Okay.
So
So
we'll
yes,
go
it
back
does.
there in just a minute. So go back to that pull down and get the second pipe in that list and click load defaults and apply.
Okay.
And then go to the third one in the list and pick load defaults and apply. And go to the fourth one in the list and pick load defaults and apply. Now, if all the pipes you draw for the rest of your life are of those 4 types, you'll never have to do this again, James. But later, we're going to find some underground pipes or something, and that'll be the first time ever we've used underground. We'll have to come in here and do load defaults and apply. Fair enough?
Yes.
But now let's switch to pipe type mapping and click on the first pipe type in the list and that arm overs. Do we want to treat the arm overs as lines, mains, or underground?
Lines.
Okay, so I'm clicking on lines, and that says we're going to use Schedule 40 C120. That sounds good to me. You?
Yep.
Lines welded. Is that lines, mains, or underground?
Lines.
I'm going to click on it. It says Schedule 40. I think it should be Schedule 10. I'm double clicking on the Schedule 40, and then I'm going to click on Schedule 10 and OK, or double click on Schedule 10. And now my welded line.
Prompt.
Say again?
I said that's a familiar looking prompt.
It is, and it came exactly from the calc program.
Mm-hmm.
And now the threaded lines, those are lines also, right?
Yep.
And they're Schedule 40 and 120. And the mains welded, those are mains. And that gets Schedule 10. So now it's all filled in, and we should check if there's a page 2. And I'm just using the arrows to go back and forth. There is no page 2. There were just 4 pipe types. And I don't know if you noticed that the continue button was grayed out, but I suspect that it's lit up now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anybody have not a lit up continue button? That's either good or we have shy people. But let's, you and I, go ahead and pick continue, James. And I'm just, this thing looks like an error. If you read it, it just says, oh, we read your stuff and we put it in the calcs and the calcs are all set up. I would pick don't show this message again, but then I wouldn't be seeing it and you would. I would recommend don't show that message again, and I'm going to pick OK. And James, I think this looks very, very familiar to you also. Do I?
Yes, it does. Yep. Yep.
And I think, Josh, this is probably not too familiar to you. Is that a true statement?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, there you are.
No, not familiar to me at all. No, I'm an AutoSprint guy, so.
So in AutoSprint, they kind of close your eyes and say, here's the answer.
Yep, yeah.
And here we're giving you a preview of what the final printout is going to be in a condensed format. So let me just read a little bit of this with you. 201 is a familiar number. Agreed? That's what we typed in for make up numbers and start at 201. And the first piece of pipe is 1 inch, Schedule 40, 2.5 feet long with 2 elbows and a T. Any guess what that would be talking about, Josh?
I'm sorry, say that again?
This first line, I'm reading row 2 here. It says from reference point 201 to 202, it's 1 inch pipe, Schedule 40, 2.5 feet long with 2 elbows and a T. Just from that much information, could you guess where that is in our model?
Let's see. It's coming from the, let's see, 2 diameter, Schedule 40. Is that going through the supply, or it's going to from the supply elbow to that first T?
Yeah, it starts at the very most remote head, and it's going up, over, and down through a return bend. If I
Okay.
describe it that much, 1 inch would make sense for the return bend pipe, yeah?
Yes.
And 2.5 feet is like the drop and the arm over and the little riser nipple.
Okay. Gotcha.
And there's an elbow, and then you connect into the branch line. There's the T. And then further evidence, Josh, is that at 201 at the beginning of this thing is a K factor of 5.6. That's that pendant sprinkler. And it's got a density of 0.1, a coverage area of 196, and a minimum pressure of 7. Then if we continue to line 3, 4, 5, or row 3, 4, 5, and 6, you see the diameters of 1 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/4, and the schedule is all schedule 10. That's that welded branch line. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's going past additional arm overs, and the additional arm overs are written on lines 11, 13, 15, and 17. You see there again, 2.5 feet with 2 elbows and a T. So hopefully in just this 3 minutes, we got this from a totally strange thing down to a puzzle that you could probably figure out.
Can you tell me what okay, so I'm trying to figure out where the supply node is on this.
It's at reference 207 on line
Two
9.
Okay, so 207 is okay.
And the reason I'm convinced of that is that I see we start at the calcs always start at the hydraulically most remote head, Josh. And the first thing they try and do is find a way from there to the supply point. And you see line 1, that's a pretty good clue, isn't it? Remote head to supply.
Okay, I get it. Now you're just working your way from 201 down to the supply vault. Okay.
Right. Now the supply point's pretty darn close in this system, right? Because we put that right at that elbow. So we went through 1.25 inches, and then we went through 19 feet of 3-inch to get to the supply point. Line 10, row 10 through 8 through 17 are the arm overs feeding that branch line. And then line 18, row 18, is the beginning of the next branch line. There were 3 branch lines here. And the second branch line starts at row 18, and then the arm overs for it start at row 26, and the third branch line starts at row 32 and ends at row 40. So it's like we calculated down one branch line into the supply, then down each of the other 2 branch lines back to the main that supplied that original path. Can you think of anything that would make you any more comfortable with this than my attempt? Or so far so good?
So far, so good on my end.
Okay. So I'm going to pick the button across the top. There's a bunch of toolbar buttons, and the one 2/3 of the way over says calculate. And when I do that, the most important thing I want to pay attention to here is the stuff in yellow. It says, we took all that modeling stuff and we put it in this spreadsheet. And when we did, we put 12 operating sprinklers in the spreadsheet. That's good because that's how many I thought. We put no added flows, but we put 1 hose flow. That's our 100 gallons for hose. And there are no loops. That's a good thing because I thought this was a tree and that would have no loops. And it had a total elevation change of minus almost 1 foot. And that's because that supply point at that elbow is higher than the sprinklers that are operating. So I'm going to pick OK here. And that says this thing is currently requiring 377 gallons at 40 psi and it's currently 12.9 pounds under the curve. So I have a safety margin. If I wanted to, say, how much of a safety margin would I have if I changed the 3-inch to 2.5? So I'm going to click on the first 3-inch that I see in here, and then I'm going to pick on the binoculars, and I'm going to say find what, 3-inch, and I'm going to change it to 2.5, and I'm going to pick replace all. He found 3 of them. He found that one and changed it. He found that one and changed it. He found that one and he changed it. I'm going to exit. I'm going to rerun the calc. Same yellow stuff, but now I'm 9 pounds under the curve. So I'm going to pick OK, and I'm just going to make you pick. Do you like one of those better than the other, Josh? 3-inch or 2.5?
2.5 works for me. I'm sorry. If I go to the calculate, you did the binoculars and then you did find all and then, or sorry, replace all.
Yes, but I started in the column where I wanted to change stuff.
Okay.
So I
Gotcha.
clicked on the first 3-inch, and then I picked the binoculars, and
And
it
then
guessed 3-inch. And I
Okay.
typed replace with 2.5,
2.5, and you just replace all. Okay.
replace all. And then it told me it changed 3 of them.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. And then we calced and we saw that we were 9 pounds under the curve. Let me do one more thing while we're here for you, Josh. We've done this calc sort of on the fly. If I pick this button that says print, final, and OK, and OK, if I scroll down a little bit through these pages, can you say, oh, Al, that looks more familiar to me now? Whether you're using Haas or AutoSprink or
Yeah.
Hydric, you got to print these out. This is what the
Mhm.
underwriter, this is what the authority wants to look at.
Yep.
And if you go to page 5 of 7, that starts out going 201 to 202 with a K factor of 5.6 and a length of 2.68. It's all the exact same stuff,
Mhm.
except this takes 3 lines per entry, and that input form got it all on one line. Okay, so I'm going to close that, and I'm ready to close this calc. Does anyone have questions on the HydroCalc calc spreadsheet at this point?
Yeah, I've got one. I'm seeing E's and T's. Does the Revit tell it to do firelog fittings when it's using one?
It does. That's a setup in your hydraulic calc setup.
Okay.
And I've got mine finding E's and T's, but the elbow on the main, it used an X for. And that's because I did that custom setup that says if the pipe type is this, then make the elbows be this instead of that.
Okay, that
familiar with
explains
that at
why
all?
our safety was slightly different as well.
Yeah. There's, it's almost unthinkable that 2 people could run the exact same thing and get exactly the same answer,
Right.
because there's enough settings to tweak that. All right. Any other questions? I'm about to close the calc screen. Okay, so I'm closing the calc screen and I'm going to pick return to Revit. And when I do, it's prompting me for a place to put the answer block, which I'm going to put in the upper right-hand corner of that view. And the answer block has a lot of blank stuff in it, but the thing that's significant is that safety margin was 9 pounds or so. How curious. It's 9.00198. Find that on your pressure gauge, I dare you. Okay, but additionally, it put reference points on here. And I'm going to click a bunch of these and move them just enough to separate them. So I'm picking like the norther one of each of the pairs. And then I'm going to use my up arrow just to move those north ones north a little bit.
I'm sorry, Alan. Can you repeat that step process on how you got those nodes in that block up there?
Yeah, when I was in the spreadsheet, I closed that. That got me back to the dialog box that we had filled in with the pipe types and stuff. And I picked on return to Revit. And then I picked on a place in space that parked this answer block. Did you get the answer block, Josh?
I'm having to open up hydraulic calculations again. So, okay, so I've got the pipe types here. I'm looking at the hydrocalc, the lines. I've got them, and then I see continue.
Okay. And for this exercise, as soon as you hit continue and you get back to that spreadsheet.
So this is file. Says file exists. Do you want to delete and overwrite this file? Select
Sure.
no to change name. So hit
Yeah.
yes.
Just go ahead and overwrite it. It's going to come out the same answer.
Okay, I'm looking at the calcs 201. Okay, I've got that open.
And
Info
just
sheet.
so you get the same thing, click on
Yeah.
the 3 again, the first 3 in the diameter column.
Yep. Okay.
And do the binoculars and change them all to 2.5.
Okay.
Then pick the calc button and tell me that your safety margin is in the order of 9 pounds.
So when I did that and I changed all the 3-inch to 2.5, I'm under the curve 18.34 pounds, so 34% under the water curve.
Interesting. All right. So just pick that calc button again and tell me how many heads are operating in the yellow.
I've got 10 heads.
10 heads. I had 12. So you've got a bigger safety margin because you're not flowing as many heads.
Okay.
And we're not going to have to fix that now, Josh.
Yeah, when I walker I'm walking the entire floor as well, so
That's
not sure why
fine.
it's doing that.
But the reason it's only getting 10 heads is that when you picked your window and you set the properties, your window didn't have 12 heads in it.
Okay.
And you'll know which 10 heads you got in just a moment. So you've got an 18-pound safety margin. So close the spreadsheet. Got it?
So close that, because when I close that, that's when I thought I can't put the block there. But okay, I'll close it.
Close it, and then
Okay.
you should be back to the dialog box that had continue.
Return to Revit. Gotcha.
Click on return to Revit.
That's where I messed up.
Yep. And then click on a place in space.
Got it.
You got the answer block and you got the reference points.
Yeah.
Perfect. And that is the purpose of this calc, is kind of a warm-up exercise. That's the cycle. We can do all kinds of fancy stuff going forward, but the cycle is operating heads, connected model, water supply, run the calc, get the reference points. Now, if you look at the reference points, you may be missing where I have reference points on the 2 heads on the far.
Yeah, I'm missing that top left head right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it was critical that you fix it, you could just pick a window around that head. Under common, go to the sprinkler that you picked, and then go make sure you fill in the properties for it. You could run the calc again and have 12 heads, not 10.
Which is interesting because I have flowing. I gotta make sure that's okay. It was checked though.
Flowing and remote area. Those 2 things have to be. They both have to be there. Okay. So when we got back, I picked a place for the answer block, and I got reference points. And we've got a very, very preliminary calculation of the second floor. We've got some stuff to discuss, and then I want to open our eyes up and say, this thing is kind of way not typical. So just because I calculated 12 heads on the second floor doesn't mean that the lobby's going to work, doesn't mean that the lower level's going to work, doesn't mean that the grid's going to work. I've got a bunch of other things to consider, and I want to drag us through much or most of that. But to stick with my slides for starters here, we did get reference points and we did get an answer block. I mentioned divide and conquer before. If I went to run the calc and my supply point had been where reference point 1 is, Jason, I'm going to use you to sort of interact with here a little bit. You got your mic ready to go there?
Sure.
Okay, so if I started with all the green dots as operating heads, and I started with the supply point at reference point 1, where I'm showing the 1, and I went to run the calc, and it blew up on me. It got halfway through, and it said, I can't do this. We've got a problem. Where does the problem exist? I'm going to answer that one and say, somewhere between those green dots and reference point 1. Maybe I don't have a connected model. Maybe I've got a pipe size that doesn't exist. There's no telling what the problem is, but somewhere between the green dots and reference point 1. I'm going to propose now that I simply move the supply point to where reference point 3 is. Got me, Jason?
Sure.
If I go to run the calc and that runs, what does that tell me about where that problem is?
Oh, it's between 1 and 3 then. So
It's
somewhere
between
around.
1 and 3, right? So if that's the case, I'm going to move it to 2. And if that calc runs, where's the problem?
Between 1 and 2, that riser and test
Right.
point.
So I think you've got the idea here really well. That it's really easy to move the supply point. All you got to do is pick supply point and pick a different fitting.
You can't
And
drag this supply point around?
you
You have
can't
to.
drag it. You have to
Okay.
actually put it on a new place. And I'm just gonna show you this again. My supply point right now is here. If I click this as a new place, supply point, it disappeared from here, Jason, you see?
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not dragging it, but I am moving it just by picking one point and it's in the new place.
Yep. Okay.
That's what I would do to get from 1 to 3 to 4 to 2 or whatever. But by testing it there, I'm saying you could figure out where the problem is down to like 3 pipes in about 4 tries. And if you say the problem's between here and here, almost always you say, oh, that's it. I forgot. I used arm over pipe for the main or something. But very, very powerful tool. And Mike Kulik and I came up with the idea of labeling it divide and conquer, but we think Julius Caesar came up with the concept. All right. Also, now that we got back from the drawing, or we got back from the calcs, I'm going to discuss 4 or 5 different ways you could change the pipe sizes. First thing I'm going to do is go to the working view and add some pipe dimensions so we can watch the pipe sizes change. So I'm going to go back here on the second. I'm going to go find the working second floor. And this doesn't have any pipe sizes on it, but I'm going to put pipe sizes by doing the walker. And then I'm going to tag pipe TP And I'm going to put dynamic tags on, and I'm not going to bother cleaning them up, and okay. And the advantage of the dynamic tags is, check this out. That says 14 and that says 14. If I take this arm over and I move it to the left, do you see that's 1310, 14.2? I move it to the right, that's 14 feet, that's 14 feet. Similarly, if I take this piece of pipe and I change its diameter to 1.5 inches, immediately that changes to 1.5 inches. I'll change it back to 1.25 inches. The other ones are a little prettier, and they're the center to center, not just the pipe length. But you need to rerun. If you make a change, you need to rerun tag pipe to get the information updated. If you've invested in moving stuff around, that investment is safe. You're going to still have your pipe dimensions where you put them, but the values will get updated when you rerun tag pipe. Okay, now that we've done that, Josh, do you see that this main says 3-inch?
It does.
You and I made it 2.5, didn't we, when we were in the calcs?
We did.
This is the button that would retrieve that information. If I pick calculated diameters, you see that changes to 2.5.
Would that work if you were in a habit of saving your calcs in a different folder, like the job folder, or does it need to be in the
No,
HES?
it does not. You can save them wherever you like.
Alan and I had already put on tags on this working second floor.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think my tags that I put on aren't
Not dynamic.
yeah.
So I'm going to do undo just to get back where I was a second ago. I want to not mess this up. But if you simply pick a big old window around the entire view
Mm-hmm.
and filter none except for the pipe tags
Gotcha.
and hit delete. Now Walker and tag pipe and I don't know why, Walker and tag pipe and dynamic tags.
What keys are you pressing for the pipe tag function?
TP, tag
TP?
pipe.
Okay.
And WW, I wear out almost as much as escape. WW
Okay.
Walker.
Gotcha. And then when I did that, now they're 2.5, so I was able to skip that
Right.
calculated diameters.
So I'm going to go redo that calculated diameters button, Josh, and you see this is 2.5 and that's 2.5 and that's 2.5. But if you look closely, this 6 inches off the end is 3-inch.
Yep.
Could you make an excuse for that?
No.
That pipe was not calculated. It wasn't significant to the hydraulic calculation.
Oh, okay.
And similarly, if I pan to the other end, you see the kickback?
The 3-inch, yeah.
The 3 inches not the same. So this is cool and of some use, but it's not my favorite way to change that to 2.5. It's too literal for me. So I'm going to do undo. And instead of changing it that way, I think my slides might be slightly out of order, but I'm going to show it to you while I'm thinking of it this way. I'm going to do a different Walker. There's a Walker pipe run. And if I pick on that 3-inch, it goes that whole run. It selects that whole run. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And I can change that to 2.5.
Got it.
And I could go down with it, but I'm hesitant about that. Let me make this one 2.5. Okay, if I rerun the calc now, the calc is going to use 2.5 for all of that stuff, but I've changed the whole thing that was intended by the calc, not what was literally done by the calc. Fair enough?
Fair.
So let me go back to my slides. So I said you can add dynamic tags, then you can do the calc diameters. I did that and I did undo because when I go, if I have to hunt down the stuff that I meant to change that wasn't literally changed, it's not as easy as just making that change in the first place. So another tool that I'm only going to mention is there's a tool for resizing threaded pipes, and this second tool is legitimate really for threaded ones because you want to assign a schedule, say 2 heads on 1 inch, 3 heads on 1.25 inches, 6 heads on 1.5 inches, and it'll go count heads and size the pipes according to that schedule. If I'm using welded lines, this thing doesn't have a lot of application because it works better when I'm trying to telescope things. The third one I did show you, you can use WS, that's the Walker pipe run, and just say that whole main, I want to make that 4-inch. That whole main, I want to make that 6-inch. And then finally, since we drew the predominance of our model using welded pipe for the branch lines, I can go find that in the schedule and I could say, let's make all the 1.25 inch welded lines 1.5 inch welded lines. So I want to show you that and then I'll go put it back, but I want to show it to you first. Like we don't need it, but I want you to be aware of it. So in the project browser, I'm going to go under schedules and I'm going to find pipe size and type schedule. And this is good because I'm reminded that somewhere I drew some arm overs or something and I forgot to make the drops be 1 inch instead of 1/2 inch. If I'm interested in where did that happen, I could just click on that and say highlight in view. And there's 2 places on the second floor. There's one of them that the drop is 1/2 inch and it meant to be 1 inch. I've got one other trick I'm going to show you while I'm here. Like, James, can you tell which 2 pipes are highlighted? Pretty
Not
tough.
right offhand. Nope.
It's pretty darn tough.
Yeah.
But they are selected. Do you see in the properties box it says there's 2 pipes selected? I'm going to right click in this view and I'm going to say override graphics in view by element. And I'm going to say the projection lines I want to be hot pink. And I want the weight to be 15. And I'm going to pick OK. And up here, I'm going to say apply the line weight. And James, can you tell which 2 pipes are 1/2 inch now?
Yeah, I can now. Could you tell me where you got that again, real
I'll
quick?
do it
The first
again.
step?
Yep. I'm going to undo, and I'm going to go back to the schedule and click on these and say highlight and model.
Yep.
Okay. So over here, I know that they're highlighted. They're selected, and I'm right clicking.
Okay.
And then I'm saying override graphics in view by element. So those 2 pipes. And this is the override. And what I want to override is the projection lines. And I want to make them hot pink. And maybe 15 was a little overdoing it. I'll make it 10 this time. And I'll pick OK. And I still have that thin lines on. So that's a really good trick. If you have 2 things highlighted and you're playing Where's Waldo, you can make Waldo fat and make him show up. And then if I escape, and I right click, no, I guess I got to select stuff. I'm going to Walker the whole system. And then I'm going to right click, override graphics, and view by element, reset. And then my hot pink stuff goes away. Okay, well, anyway, those two I forgot. They've got 1/2 inch drops. On the size pipe, I'm going to click on 1/2 inch, and I know I don't use 1/2 inch pipe anywhere. I'm going to make that 1 inch. And then I've got all these branch lines. 107 pipes are 1.25 inches, and I want to make those 1.5 inches. That's the welded lines. And then I'm going to go back to the second floor, and all my lines are now 1.5 inches.
A real quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you're doing this in the copy instead of the second floor?
Totally doesn't matter. Well,
Okay.
I take it back. I'm doing it in the copy because that's the one I put those dynamic pipe sizes on, the dynamic pipe dimension tags. So I get instant gratification. I get to see the changes right away.
Oh, okay. So those don't apply. Those aren't on the.
The sizes have changed on the other view, but the information reporting needs to be updated by tag pipes. I hope that doesn't. I'm proud of myself for saying that very accurately, but in hearing myself say it, it sounds like I'm double talking or something. Let me go to the other view. Here's the second floor view. And do you see it says 1.25 inches? But if I click on that pipe, the pipe is 1.5 inches. The
Oh,
pretty
I can see myself
text.
getting a view.
Say that you broke up. Say that again.
I could see myself working deep into one view that I was in the wrong one.
Fair enough. And I'm saying there is no wrong view. There's no wrong view. If you change something from 1 to 1.5, it's changed. Before you plot, get in the habit of, okay, I've been working on this for the last 3 days. It's time to plot it. The views that you're going to plot, simply rerun tag pipes on. That will adjust all of the values. That'll update the text
Right.
for all of those values. And that's not so different from AutoCAD either. If you're trying to do a cut plan, you got to make sure that Sprint B is on or something.
Yep.
And if the length's changed, you got to make sure you rerun the tag pipe to get the lengths to change. So I'm going to do that. Walker, tag pipe. I don't have to do cleanup or anything. I just want these pipes tagged and if they're already tagged, they're not getting retagged, but they are getting recalculated. Do you see that I say 1.5 inches now?
Yes, thank you.
If I change this length, I'm just moving that head a little bit. The length didn't change. Do you see that?
Yeah.
But when I tag pipe, Walker, tag pipe, that recalculates the lengths. Walker. And you don't have, and like it's a total waste of time. You should not do this, is go run that like, oh, I made a change. Oh, I got to run update. No, wait. When you're all ready to plot, run that once and they'll all be up to date. In the meantime, if you're working on that working view, and your working view has got the dynamic tags, those are up to date all the time, every time, instantaneously. So I don't think it's a change in functionality as much as it's a change in workflow. Don't be bothered by those dimensions all the time. When it's time to plot them, then get the dimensions up to date by running tag pipe. Okay, I'm going to put these back. I'm going to go to my schedule, and I'm going to put those back to 1.25 inches. And then on the working view, it automatically says 1.25 inches. And when I run the walker, the diameters get updated. I didn't tell you that. When I run tag pipe, the diameters and the lengths get updated on all the other views. Okay, so where are we on the slide here? So I showed you like I showed you 3. I told you about 4 different ways to change the pipe sizes. Once again, we're running up. Go ahead, question?
Yeah, Alan, I was just curious. So when you're changing those pipe sizes in the pipe type schedule tab, does the block not automatically change when you do that? You have to go back in and manually run the calcs to have that block update?
Are we talking about that block?
No, the calc block, the fire protection system
Oh,
command block we put in. So when we're
okay.
changing these pipe types, is that automatically getting updated, or do you have to run the calcs again to have it?
No, if I change diameters, now in this case, I changed 3 to 2.5.
Yeah.
So the block is up to date.
Okay.
But
But as far as like if you change the
if I
1.25 inches, it's 1.5 inches,
1.25
it won't.
inches, now that calc is incorrect. I need to rerun that calc.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. We're sort of moving on. We've done our sort of practice warm-up exercise calc, and I want to do some more calcs. But other questions on that warm-up exercise before we move on? Okay. I'm a little bit conflicted because we keep running further and further behind, and I'm thinking I'm gonna make up a little bit of ground here. Just go for it, Al. So I want before we run the next calc to do the modeling for the second floor over here. So we've got a second floor lobby area that's really tall, and we don't have any sprinklers in it yet. And it's got a lot of stuff going on. The roof is sloped. I'm going to go to this section that goes through there. The roof is sloped. The steel is sloped. The ceiling is sloped at a different slope, and underneath the sloped ceiling is a curved ceiling. So like I said, there's a lot going on there. Not so many heads, but I would like to run the sprinklers through this slope. So my branch lines will run perpendicular to this sloped roof, and my drops will come perpendicular through the roof, through the ceiling, and I will treat this as a non-combustible concealed space and take these sprinklers and run them through the curved ceiling there. And to do that, I'm going to use the spacing and layout tool with the sloped pipe feature that's still sloping up from the floor, not down from the structure. In this case, down from the structure would be at the wrong slope. So up from the floor, I can say that roof is at that ceiling is at a predictable slope, and I'm going to space under that. To do it, I need to space that ceiling based on the low point and the slope is a constant, and I can run my branch lines parallel or perpendicular to that slope. And in this case, I'm going to set the whole dialog box up this way, up, over, and downs. I want to include the pipes. I want to continuous is not necessary, but if I did one ceiling then another, I'd want continuous. I want to lock to the tiles so my sprinklers go into the tiles. I'm going to use welded lines 1.25 inches. The low point is 18 feet. That's my ceiling low point, and it slopes up 1.75 in 12. And this indicator is that it's sloping up. And I'm going to put my branch line 6 inches above my ceiling. So I'll fill all of that in, and then I'll I'll get sprinklers in that sloped area. So I'm going to go to close all the other views again. I'm going to go to the ceiling plan, the working ceiling plan for the second floor. And currently, I'm not seeing the ceiling tiles in this plan because I made all of my views 0, current view plus 13.4. The second floor has part that goes way higher. So I'm going to edit the view range if he lets me, and I'm going to go to 33'4". And he's complaining that the view depth is not the same as the top. Ceiling plans, the view depth has to be the same as the top. Floor plans, the view depth has to be the same as the bottom. Okay, now I can see my ceiling tiles. The ceiling tiles are hiding below that curved ceiling. That's what these blank spaces are here. And I've got enough to actually see, so I'm going to go ahead back to HydroCAD, spacing and layout. And up, over, and down, I'm going to use the reliable recessed pendant that we dialed in. The ceiling height is 18 feet. The pipe height is 18'6", 6 inches above this. The head data should be 0.1, 196, 225, 15 by 15. Again, are constraints, not answers. And my ceiling tiles are still 2 by 2. My branch lines could go left and right. That would be up the slope. My steel is going in that direction, so I'm going to put the branch lines north and south. And over here, I'm going to use 1.25" welded lines at 18'6". And then here, this is what's important. The slope, I told you, was 1.75 over 12. I kind of hate springing stuff on you like I'm all knowledgeable or something. So this is that ceiling that I want to slope. If I go to annotate, there's spot slope, and there's the 1 3/4 inches in 12 inches. That's the same slope as 1 3/4 feet in 12 feet. So in that spacing and layout dialog box, in the slope here, I could type 1.75 and I could type 12. And he treats them as feet just as good. If I put 1.75 inches in 12 inches, the 1.75 inches might get rounded off to 1.5 inches. I don't want that, so I let it use feet. And then the slope is sloping up to the left. The left end is the high end. So we've got that filled in. I could pick on a grid, or I could pick on a light. I'm not convinced that the architect is using the same room that I am, so I'm going to pick 3 points. I've got to be in a floor plan to do that, so I'll go back to the floor plan, start this dialog box up and say pick 3 points. I'm going to pick the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to pick the upper right-hand corner. Oops, over here. I was a little sloppy. I didn't get that perfect, but I do want to get the intersection of that ceiling grid kind of perfect. And that gets me heads here and heads there. I could move this whole row up and be probably avoiding that mechanical equipment. I seem to be avoiding the can lights. These lights are the mechanical guy just didn't get the memo about where the ceiling was, so he's to be ignored. And then I could pick the green button, or I could hit escape, insert sprinklers. And then the sprinklers kind of disappeared because they're not flat to the floor. The symbol shows up only when the deflector is flat to the floor, but we're going to use pretty sprinklers to get those back. I also think I want to take this guy and move it up 4 feet, which if I wasn't in a hurry, I would have done while I was in the sprinkler tool. I could have just clicked and moved that, but I'm avoiding this elevator shaft, and gonna stick with the plan here. So the elevator shaft, I'm gonna take a bite out, and I apologize. I got crazy. Okay, I tried to pan on the PowerPoint. That made the slides go crazy. I want to slope this pipe up from this pipe to this pipe. There's a tool in Revit that says make the pipe slope, make it change elevation to meet those two ends. However, if this end is a T, Revit treats the pipe as if it's got connection points at 12, 3, 9, 12, 3, 6, and 9. And it'll connect at the 3 o'clock location. Then it'll go a little way and put a crazy elbow to point down and slope the pipe down. If it's connecting not to a T, to an elbow, it'll rotate the elbow. So I'm going to take a bite out of this pipe, take a bite out of the elevator shaft, and connect this on a slope. Then I'll turn this into a T and reconnect it. I'll do that on both sides. So I'm over here. I'm going to use the coupling command to add manual couplings on either side of the elevator shaft, and then in 2 places over here to take a bite out of that guy, and 2 places over here to take a bite out of that guy so that I can connect to an elbow. And then I'm going to erase the two couplings and the pipe, and the two couplings and the pipe. And now I'm going to connect this pipe sloping down to that pipe. I want to get them lined up. There's a dotted line to get them lined up. And I'll take this one and move it. I'll move it just a little bit. Can I move this one and see that dotted line? There it is. There's the dotted line. All right. Then I'm going to right click and say create similar. And I'm starting here and I'm trying to go there. Right by default, it's add vertical. So I'd go over flat and then a riser nipple down. But I can say change slope, and now it'll go on a slope down to there. And then I can go from here on a slope down to there. And then I can put this back together by adding an outlet, and then to this. So I clicked on the T, and on the modify ribbon in the pink panel is a button that says to this, connect that. So to this, connect that pipe. And then I'm going to go to the up. I escape. I've got an add an outlet. Then to this, connect that pipe.
Could you quickly show the slope part again instead of having the riser?
Yeah. let's undo. Okay, finally, I got this pipe is at 19.7 and I've got this pipe is at 21.7. I click on this and say right click, create similar. So I'm creating a pipe 1.25 inches at 21'7", and it's a welded line. I'm going to start here, and this button up here was on add vertical. I'm going to change it to change slope.
Got
I'd
it.
also I'd also like to remember to uncheck that so that it doesn't go changing slope later when I don't mean for it to do. So now that I've done that, I'm going to click on a pipe and say, right click, create similar, and I'm going to put that back to add vertical. All right, then I'm going to take this guy and add an outlet, and then click on the T, and to this connect the pipe. And the other side, I lost my piece, so create similar. I've got to change slope again from this pipe down to that pipe. Escape. Then I'm going to click on this guy and add an outlet. Click on the T, and to that, connect that. And then I'm going to create similar again while I'm thinking of it and say add vertical instead. All right. Then this thing says create a riser that goes down to the first floor. And then we're going to create a grid. So I'm going to make this, just because I'm feeding a whole section of pipe, I'm going to make that 2.5. And I'll make it be a main to feed downstairs. So over here, this is a little landing in front of this mechanical room for the elevator. So I'm going to come off of this and go down out along that wall and then come back toward the ground floor piping. So click on the height and diameter of that. I'm going to say create similar. So I've got the right height. I'm going to change the diameter to 2.5. And I'm going to change to mains welded. And I've got this on add vertical. So I'm going to come across this thing over up to that wall. And then I'm going to change the elevation to -2 feet. And then head back in the direction. So I went over and I went down, and then I came back, and on the ground floor I should see the come back. I think I could go ahead and make this 6 inches to a cap. And I'm going to switch to the ground floor. This is a working ceiling plan for the ground floor. And here's that pipe coming through the floor. And then here it is 2 feet below the floor. And I want to feed that off of this ground floor system. So I'm going to turn this into a grid. And I think I'm going to take this pipe and create similar. That gets me the same height as the branch lines. I'm going to change it to 2.5, and I'm going to change it to mains. And I'll draw that pipe across this wall. So I've got a grid main over there. Escape, escape, escape. I'm going to go hunt down these caps. There's one. I'm going to hunt down this cap. Control, that's 2, 3, 4. I just blew it. That's 2. All right. 3, 4, 5. All right, so I have 5 caps, I'm deleting them. Then I'm going to connect those lines into this main. So I'm going to go to connect pipes, make them be the same height and connect into the side. I'm sorry, I did that too fast. Connect pipes. So make them the same height and connect in. They're already the same height, but if they're not, it would adjust them. And I'm going to say connect into this main, that pipe, that pipe, that pipe, that pipe, and that pipe, and finish. Oh, he's going to be mad at me because that pipe doesn't reach this one. So I've got to go make this longer. And then I could just drag this on there, or I could do connect pipe again. All right. Then I'm going to cap open end at the top, and I'm going to cap open end at the bottom. And then I'm going to take this 2.5 and drag it onto that 2.5. And I've still got that, when I'm working on the pipe, the one that says add vertical, so I've got an up and down. So this pipe is at minus 2 feet from the second floor. If I take that pipe and say measure it from the ground floor, it's at 11 feet above the ground floor. And this one is at 10 feet above the ground floor. So I've got an up and down to connect them. But now I've got a feed. I've got a connected model for those heads on the second floor. Okay, so I gridded the lobby into that ground floor. And now I'm going to mark, I've got one remote area marked. I'm going to mark 3 more remote areas. I'm going to mark the entire second floor lobby. I'm going to mark 1,500 square feet of ground floor, and I'm going to mark 1,500 square feet of lower level. And then we'll run a calc on all 4 of those and decide who's the worst off. So over here, the entire second floor. I've got the second floor ceiling plan. I'm going to put a remote area on. So that's annotate and filled region. And this one I can do a rectangle of that entire second floor. So all the heads on that second floor are 1,392 square feet. But I'm doing that entire area, so I'm counting that. While I'm here, I'm saying, I told you I couldn't really see those sprinklers. I'm going to pick a window around that and do HydroCAD pretty sprinkler. Now I can see them. Now that I see them, I'm saying I want to cap open ends on that guy. If I just start with modify cap open ends, I can pick that pipe, and that pipe, one pick each. Now I want to get the second floor. I already have reference points on, and I already have those heads operating. I don't have to do a filled region for that, but the idea was maybe to show it to you. Let me do that. Annotate region. This time I'm going to draw it with a line. 1, 2, 3, 4 heads. Over here, down 3 lines, 5 heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 3 heads on this line. And finish. So this remote area is 1599. I can get fancier, like this one's a little less than what I was showing. If I want that to be exactly halfway between those two, I can adjust this boundary, and I can put a dimension from that pipe to that line. He's giving me a hard time. Let me try it one more time. There, from that pipe to that line to that pipe. Good. So where I'm at is favoring this thing. If I say equal, now that line is exactly halfway between those two heads. Similarly, I can move this to be exactly on that wall. I could move this one to be exactly halfway between those two. But I'm playing with 81 extra square feet, so I'm quitting there and saying that represents that 1,500, that represents that 1,500. I need one on the ground floor. I have a ground floor view here. I'm going to pick 1,500 in this upper right-hand corner. Let me do this again. I'm going to do a region, and I'm going to use a line, and I'm going to start in this corner, and the square root of 1,500 times 1.2 is 47 something. So if I go over here, that's 48 feet. I need that much. Then I think I can get away with one head in here. I'm going to go to halfway between there and do this room and finish. And the guy that I did is 1458. So I need another head. I'm going to take this head, and that gets me to 1506. Again, I could go get really super accurate with it, but I think, yeah, I think I'm in the right ballpark there. $15.26. Okay, and then one more, the lower level ceiling plan, lower level. This one, I can't see the sprinklers right now, so I'm going to use the pretty sprinklers button, and I'm going to use the same trick here. I'm going to start my remote area here, go at least 47 feet. So I'm going to go to annotate, region, start with a line, start in this corner, and I'm going to come down till I'm at least 47 feet. That would be halfway between those two heads. I'm going to come over to 3 lines, and I think I'll do like an extra head or something and find out how far off I am. So finish that. That guy's only 1,200 and something. So for starters, I'm going to move that over there. And now I'm at 1368. Then I'm going to take and move this up to there. And now I'm at 1442. So I need this head. I can edit the boundary, take this guy and move him down here, add some lines. Take this line and connect it back to that one. And then I'm going to finish that. And now I'm at 1516. So I've got that area marked off. Now for each of those areas, I need not just the marking, I need to say those heads are operating. So in Hydra Calc, there's a button for select calc area. Pick that dotted line. Those heads got selected. I want all of them to be flowing. I want them to be part of lower level. Their density is 0.15. Their pressure is 7. I'm going to calculate them at 130 square feet. I'm going to apply that and finish. And I don't trust this thing entirely, so after I've done it, I'm going to go back and look. They're not all marked flowing, so I'm going to click on them all and check mark flowing, click on them all again, check mark flowing and say apply. Okay, I see the dotted line, the check mark on all of those. I see the remote area on all of those. Everything else is filled in. Back to the second floor. I'm going to remote area this one. I'm going to select all of those. Tell them that they're flowing. Tell them they're flowing there. Try it again. Tell them that they're flowing and apply it. Okay, now I see that, the remote area. I'm going to make upper lobby. Apply again and finish. I'm going to check it. Okay, they're all upper lobby. They're all 196.1. That's good. This one, we calculated or we check marked them before. I'm going to try it again or check it again here. So we're going to go to annotate, HydroCalc select area, this one. So they're all flowing. They're all 196. They're all part of RA1. That's all good. And then the last one I've got is the ground floor. Select remote area. Pick on this guy. Shift click. Flowing. Apply. Remote area. Ground floor. Apply. Finish. Double check it. Select remote area. Okay, they're all ground floor. They're all 196. Okay. So I did all the heads in the upper lobby. I did 1,500 square feet on the ground floor. I did 1,500 square feet in the lower lobby, in the lower level. And I just want to make sure I account for the equivalent length of fittings in the devices I put in. I could have done that when I put them in, but I didn't, so I'm going to do it now. We have a section view. That's the riser manifold. And in here, I'm going to add a flow switch to this, which will add it to all of them. So I'm on the HydroCalc ribbon, equivalent length. Click on this thing. And James, this looks familiar to you. I'm going to use the flow switch curve and apply that to all of those. So a flow switch will get calculated on all of those. And then I'm going to go to equivalent length, pick on the butterfly valve, and just pick butterfly and OK. Apply that to all of them. And I'm going to do one more time on the backflow device. That's a curve that comes from this Wilkins 350A. And apply that. All right. Then we're going to move the water supply, which is currently at the top of the elbow on the second floor. I'm going to move it out to Spitbrook Road. And I'm not going to worry about erasing the old one because I saw that every time I put it on, it automatically gets rid of the old one and puts a new one. So supply point there.
Bless you.
Thank you. And what else? Then I'm going to get a 3D view where I can see all the piping, and I'll run the walker to make sure the walker will select it all. But I'm going to start the calc on a level floor, not on a 3D view, and then we'll run the calc relative. So let me get a 3D view of everything. I think I can just go to View, 3D Default View, and I'm going to set this template to Working 3D. Good. And I could do without the building altogether. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not applying the visibility graphics here so that I can adjust the visibility graphics here and go to Revit models and just turn those off for now. Oh, I can't turn them off. I can't change. I did the wrong thing. Let me switch this to none. Then it'll let me adjust this. Revit links, turn them off. Okay, now if I do the walker on any pipe, it's selected all the pipe, but not the lower level. We took advantage of this before and I made note of it, but now I'm going to go change that to not a system divider. And if I do the walker now, it selects all the pipes. I think I'd see that better if this was shaded and this was fine. Yeah, and then if I do the walker, I see it all. All right, so if I do the walker on any pipe, it's going to select all the pipes. Let me go to the second floor. I've got everything walkered here. I'm on a ceiling plan for the second floor, and I'm going to start the calcs. So calcs, hydraulic calcs, and all of this was a lead up to which one, Jason, of the 4 areas that we've got, which one do you think is the hydraulically most remote?
I would guess second floor, or maybe
Just
that slope lobby. One of those two.
slope lobby, maybe? Is
Yeah,
that
one of
your
those two.
final answer?
Yeah, probably slope lobby.
Okay,
I go
Tom,
with
what do
that.
you think? Would you agree, or you pick a different one?
No, I'd agree. I see the lobby.
Okay, so I'm going to say I don't know. So I'm going to have it calc all 4 of them. So I'm just at this, everything set up from before. I think I have to double check that my underground is being calculated as underground. James, you might not have the continue button lit up. You might have to switch to classic and go find that underground and load defaults and apply, and then go back and make sure that that's on underground. You with me, James?
I am just getting to that spot right now.
Okay.
So yeah,
Continue is not lit up.
correct. It wasn't.
So go to the classic.
Yep, I got it.
Right. You got it?
Well, I guess I should have let you say how to do it because.
All right. So you switch to classic,
Yep.
dial in the underground because that's new,
Yep.
load defaults and apply.
Okay, that's what I was missing right
I
there.
think that got you continue, but I
Yep.
want you to switch back to the type code and then click on the underground and say that it's underground.
Yep.
And then if I switch back to the other page, they're all line, main. They're all good.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm clicking on this calc summary of all areas. And I'm going to pick continue. And it did calc area 1 of 4, then 2 of 4, then 3 of 4, then 4 of 4, drum roll. Okay, so the lower level is spelled wrong, but it has a safety margin of minus 8.3. That's like, it's bad. The second floor has a safety margin of minus 4. So that's the regular second floor. The upper level has got a safety margin of 0.5, and the ground floor is the best off. It's got a safety margin of 10. Can you agree, Jason? I made my point. It's kind of cool that we have this new feature that says, there's a bunch of stuff going on in a bunch of places. Where should I pay attention to?
Yeah, that's really nice. For the lower levels, what, ordinary?
Yeah,
Is that what it was? Yeah, I
yeah,
forgot all about
yeah.
that.
So we got stuck by that, right? So I'm going to go focus on the lower level, um, and then come back and pay attention to the second floor and find out what's going on there. Um, but we're right at 1 o'clock. We've done a full calculation, and we've done this abbreviated calculation. I think I'm winding up sticking a couple of slides back on um, Thursday's lesson, but I want to finish here because we're at kind of a high point. Who would have guessed? Um, and there was no legitimate way to guess this one. There's 4 different things that have 4 different reasons to be most remote, and we've got this new tool that lets us check that. Also, in this case, if I change piping relative to the lower level, that's probably going to have no effect on the other levels. But if I changed piping on the ground floor, that would affect that um, upper level, that upper lobby thing. So I could take this information and say, let me focus on that, let me fix that, and I can come back and say, what's the big picture, and is there somebody else I need to focus on before I go forward with the rest of it? I am pleased with kind of where we got to. Let me just click quickly through the rest of the slides here, and we will do them in detail later. But we did the walker. We ran the calc by making sure we selected everything, and then we calced the summary area and found different from what I had before, but in this case, we found that the lower level was the culprit. I could then run a calc on the actual most remote area. I could make adjustments, change sizes, and then rerun that calc. Part of adjusting is I prefer to put my own reference points on. 201's okay, and a bunch of numbers that start with 201 is okay, but everybody will have an easier time of following stuff if we put our own reference points on. And I will show you that on Thursday. I have a couple of slides about calculating a standpipe and a couple of slides about calculating a fire pump, but I think we're at a good stopping point here. And let me see if I can just run right through all of these to get down to the slide that says let's see if there are any questions on calculating so far. Anybody? Well, good deal. Thanks everyone for hanging around. And I am going to send out a homework assignment. Probably good if you get started on it, but it implies that we've been through the calculations and optionally implies that we've gotten through the listing. But if you get started on it, get things modeled up to the point of being able to run your own calcs, maybe change some of the pipe sizes, I think you'll be in good shape for turning the homework in before next week. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
See you on Thursday. Have a great
Thank you, Alan.
warm up, I hope, for everybody. I'm looking forward to it here. Thanks. Bye.